Now, German has to go through 164. Does not have an option. It will not go directly to 5. It'll go to 164, and then it will always go to 5. All right? And this is, German 6 chords will always often followed by 164 in order to avoid parallel fifths. Okay? And keep in mind, the augmented 6th chord expands out to an octave in all 3 chord types. So this augmented 6th chord that you see here, right? So this F and the D sharp will always resolve down in half steps and up in half steps. So the outside voices, just like that, okay? So, not too bad. So yeah, as you can see, in our Italian chord, the D sharp is going to move up to E, and the F natural is going to move down to E. Same with the French, up to E, down to E. Same with the German. But because of this expansion, it doesn't go to 5, it goes to 164, and then resolves normally. Same old rules, so try and keep a common tone, right? Yeah, and that's to avoid parallel fifths. All right, so now we're going to look at some musical contexts, and I'm going to just put up links so you can hear the actual pieces that these go with, because I am a terrible piano player, and I'm not going to subject you to that. So I'll find it, and just keep in mind, notice the standard voice leading in 6.6, right? So here's your augmented, let me find the green pen, your augmented 6th, right here, and here, right? F sharp, and the A is going to resolve down, right? So they're each going to resolve, this one's going to resolve up a half step to G, and this one's going to resolve down to G, down a half step, all right? So you just expand, each a half step, all right? And it's going to go to 164, and then go to 5. That's all there is to it. And I'll put up a recording of it so you can actually hear it. Same thing here, all right? French 6, you get 4 French 6s in here. They all resolve to 5, right? And notice that that augmented chord right here, so the B flat, let's use the French pen. So here's our B flat and our G sharp. There's our augmented 6th, all right? And this one's going to go up to A. This is going to resolve down to A, okay? That's all there is to it. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. Over and over and over again, all right? And then finally, if we look at our Italian 6th, again, notice how it is resolved, okay? So here's our Italian 6th, G flat, and our E natural, all right? So here it is. Here's our augmented 6th chord on the outside. And then this one's going to expand down to F, and this one resolves up to F, okay? Just expands out, and it resolves to the 5 chord. Easy peasy, okay? So now they're going to show you some examples of so here's some exceptions. Actually, let's go over this first. So just remember there are a couple of exceptions. In some cases, an augmented sixth chord may include added notes. Okay? Just be aware. And occasionally, augmented sixth chords occur in positions other than those listed. Traditionally, the chord maintains its name, even when the augmented sixth is inverted to a diminished third. Right? So if we look at 6.10, so in this case, the augmented sixth is inverted and it's put in root position. All right? So you can see you've got an F sharp down here. Now normally this F sharp would be up here and the A flat would be on the bottom and in the bass. It doesn't quite work with what the composer wants to do with the bass, so it's basically a German in root position, but you're still just going to call it a German sixth because that's what we call it. Okay? So it's not a German, even though it's in root position, just call it a German sixth. Does that make sense? All right? In rare instances, the bass note of any augmented sixth chord may be a scale degree other than the customary major third below tonic. All right? Again, it's going to be the same deal. So that augmented sixth chord might be a scale degree other than the customary third. All right? So that means there'll be another note in the chord, which means it may not be in first inversion, or in the case of the French chord, second inversion. Right? But you're still just going to call it a French sixth or Italian sixth or German sixth. Let's see. Sometimes the augmented sixth interval is inverted, thus creating a diminished third. We already looked at that. Diminished third right there. There's another one here. Right? This diminished third. And there are times when the resolution of an augmented sixth chord may not follow standard progression. So there are times, right? This augmented sixth chord, this French right here, right? We get a French chord that goes to a German chord, and there's no 5 in between, right? There should be a 5 here. There isn't. The composer is breaking the rules, okay? But know that composers love nothing more than to break the rules that are set up and get away with it, okay? So just know that that's a possibility, and you probably won't see it in your homework. If you do, if something doesn't make sense, leave it blank. Just put a question mark by it, and we'll talk about it in class. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There's a little bit about Baroque chords in history. So just know that, or not Baroque chords, sorry, augmented sixth chords in history. Just know that in the Baroque era, they start to show up. They're very, very uncommon though. It isn't used very often. Then we see a little more of it in the classical era. You'll see it in the Mozart. We've got a French chord. Woohoo! Very exciting. All right? And then the Romantic era, they're all over the place. The Romantics latch on and they love it. They're all about it. They're everywhere. Romantic music is lousy with augmented chords, including Neapolitan sixths and borrowed chords and German, French, Italian sixths. All over the place. So this is largely applied to Romantic era music. And then finally, when we hit the 20th century, this is the point where all these 20th century composers break these rules, right? So, for example, they use the German, French, and Italian sixths, and in the case of Ravel, with this German sixth, as you can see, he doesn't resolve it the right way. He doesn't go to 1, 6, 4, and then 5. He goes directly to a 1 chord, which is actually a ninth, which has an extra note attached to it. So he's, you're not supposed to do that. He's breaking the rules. But you know what? Sounds cool, and he did it on purpose to create that effect. So yeah, also know that in the 20th century, that said, in ragtime music, the German chords and just augmented sixth chords in general, all over the place. So you're going to be analyzing quite a bit of ragtime and Scott Joplin. So just be aware of that too. They are all about the augmented sixth chords. So here you can see German chord used right in there. Otherwise, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The doubling and voice leading rules are also pretty clear. They mostly follow the ones that you already know. So, if you're doubling, neither of the two notes forming the augmented sixth, so that outside interval, is ever doubled. Keep that in mind. So in the Italian sixth, double the tonic scale degree. So normally you don't have to double, right? Unless you've got more than 4 notes in your voice, which you guys are not going to have to deal with, right? Because the German sixth and the French sixth are all 7th chords, so they will all have, you know, each note is accounted for in a voice, right? Now, if you add more voices, if you've got 6 or 7 voices, then you're going to have to double some notes or triple some notes. What you don't want to do is double or triple any of the notes in the augmented sixth. So you're going to double the other notes. Now, the Italian is a triad, so you're going to double the tonic. Okay? Just double the tonic. Easy peasy. Cool? All right, then the bass note. The bass note of the augmented sixth chord for resolution resolves down a half step, either to the root of the 5th or the 5th of the 1/6/4. Okay? So just whatever the bass note is, it's going to resolve down a half step. Okay? Or it's going to resolve down. Usually, just by way of what key it's in, is always a half step. Okay? The progression from augmented sixth to 1/6/4 is only a partial resolution. The final resolution chord, so final resolution occurs when 5 is reached. All right? So 1/6/4 is only, you're only halfway there. All right? You've got to get to 5. To avoid parallel fifths, the German sixth almost always proceeds to the 1/6/4, or so minor or major 1/6/4 instead of directly to 5. All right? So this is just for the German sixth. All right? Now the German sixth chord has 2 spellings. In major keys, the pitch, a perfect fifth above the bass note, is sometimes respelled as a doubly augmented 4th. So it's like a super augmented. All right, so spelling of German sixth in C minor could be A flat, C, E flat, and then the F sharp. Okay, so instead of a D sharp, it'll be an E flat. So just, it's an enharmonic, okay? Now you don't have to do it that way, but sometimes it makes more sense for someone reading the music. It's easier to read that E flat than it is the D sharp. Now, if you're spelling it in C major, this D sharp is going to be read as D sharp instead of E flat, okay? So in the C major, you're going to raise it up, or you're going to do an augmented 4th rather than going minor 3rd, okay? Does that make sense? Or an augmented 2nd from C to D sharp rather than going from a minor 3rd from C to E flat. So instead of the E flat, you replace it with a D sharp. All right? And that's only in the major, and that's only with a German chord. All right? So, augmented sixth chords are generally resolved using the 3 principles outlined in page 100, which we already talked about. So it goes to 5, and then the German's going to go 1/6/4 and then 5.